Welcome to SSUC.
Spiritual Seekers United in Community.
We are an inclusive community seeking to live out a more just and generous spirituality.
We believe spirituality isn't about doctrines and beliefs demanding agreement,
but is about living fully and loving deeply.
What unites us is our desire to create community where all belong.
Where we're all safe to be ourselves.
Where we can question and ponder and seek meaningful lives.
We affirm that what matters most is who we are,
how we treat each other,
how we work to make our communities better.
We welcome the entire human family.
All ages, all colors, all abilities.
All cultures, all genders, all sexualities.
All religions and traditions, or none.
So, if you are curious and have come to see,
if you are tired and have come to rest,
if you are grateful and have come to share,
if you are journeying and have come to grow,
if you are wounded and have come to heal,
welcome.
Welcome.
If you are joyful and have come to shine,
welcome.
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 Welcome home.
As these familiar faces have welcomed you to our online gathering this morning, I add to their voices by inviting you to our 22nd affirming anniversary. 22 years ago, we made the decision to openly, actively, and specifically be a welcoming and affirming congregation to the LGBTQ community, embracing the need and the desire to be a safer place where all people can build community, find safe and supportive friendship, and nurture their spiritual lives with allies who will walk together through thick and thin. 22 years ago, we were the first United Church community in Alberta to make such a designation. And we continue that legacy year in and year out in being that affirming and welcoming place where we can live proud of the diversity that we build and share together. So way to go, everyone, for 22 years, and we'll continue celebrating through this, our anniversary gathering. As our welcome video says it, no matter where you are on the spectrum of sexuality, gender, queerness, age, body type, ability, identity, outness, color, race, or spirituality, you are welcome. You belong here, and we all belong together. It is hard to see all those faces on the screen saying welcome, and I wish we were in person, as you all do. So, this morning, now, this moment, here in Edmonton, a Misquitchie-Wiskaigan Treaty 6 land, and wherever you happen to live and work with gratitude, welcome to this celebration. Just as you are, perfectly you, belonging together here with us.
With all of our emotions, we come where we are to be together If you have a candle with you, I invite you to get it ready to light it now with us. We express our gratitude to Virginia Sauvé for sharing her at-home candle with us, you see on the screen today. And if you haven't yet sent us yours, we still welcome receiving a photo of your candle. We light our candle in recognition that we are born of fire. And when our species discovered the power of fire, everything changed. The great mystic teacher, Jesuit scientist, Pierre Chardin, left us with this wisdom. He said, someday, we shall harness the energies of love, and then for a second time in the history of the world, we will have discovered fire. We light our candle in that quest. In our searching to harness the power of love, embracing the power of diversity, knowing the grace of acceptance. On this day, wherever we are, in our home, in our study, at our kitchen table, or together, the few of us in this room, we gather in the presence of fire, committing ourselves to continue the work of creating a kinder, more loving world for all of us, a world where every child, every being, every life matters as we seek that loving that knows no borders.
Nothing
This morning's Time for All Ages comes from a wonderful book that was found for us by Linda May. And so thanks to Linda for searching this out, finding it at the library, bringing it to our attention, and knowing it was the perfect book for us to read today on our affirming anniversary. It is called Ghost's Journey, a Refugee Story. And it's by Robin Stevenson. Ghost lived in a small apartment on the beautiful island of Java with her 2 dads. When Rainer played video games, Ghost snuggled by the headphones and purred. When Ika cooked gulai, Ghost stood on her back legs and begged for a taste. When friends came over, Ghost played with everyone. But when strangers came to the door, Rainer and Ika turned off the lights and pretended no one was home. Ghost wanted to help. She fetched them toys to play with. She snuggled close and licked their tears. "People don't like us, Ghost," Rainer whispered, "just because Ika and I love each other." Over and over they had to move. Ghost didn't like moving. She hid behind the curtains and on top of bookshelves where she felt safe. She hid beneath the bed and inside a paper bag. Over and over, Rainer said, "Sorry, Ghost. It isn't safe for us here." Ghost knew they couldn't keep hiding. If her dads were in danger, she would be a guard cat. So Ghost listened for footsteps in the hallway. She kept watch at the window. One rainy day, Ghost spotted people in uniforms far down below. She meowed and meowed until her dads looked outside too. "Police," Rainer said. The next thing Ghost knew, he was being scooped up and pushed into a bag. Rainer and Ika ran with her, bump, 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 down the fire escape stairs and all the way across town. Ghost flattened her ears and yowled. When the police were gone, Rainer and Ika took Ghost back home. But Ghost didn't feel safe. Rainer and Ika sat at the computer. Click, 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 went their fingers. "Maybe someone can help us," Rainer told Ghost. "Maybe we can find a place where we won't have to hide." Ghost lay down on the keyboard and purred so that they wouldn't forget about her. Many long months went by, and then one afternoon, Ghost's dad danced into the room. "We're leaving, Ghost," Rainer said. "I have our plane tickets." Ika waved papers in the air. They hugged each other and twirled around the room together. Ghost twirled too, weaving in and out of their legs. "This is the happiest day of our lives," Rainer said. "In Canada, we will be free." A few days later, it was time to go. "You'll be safe in here," Ika said. "A cage? No way," thought Ghost. "I'm sorry, Ghost." Rainer closed the door behind her. Ghost yowled in protest as they carried her out of the apartment. She wailed when they arrived in a strange place where people stood in long lines. She yowled and she wailed until she was thirsty and exhausted. And then finally, she fell asleep. When she woke up, she pushed her face up against the bars. Where was she now? "Don't worry," Ika said. "We're right here." But all Ghost could see was their feet. She was stuck in the cage for hours and hours, and sometimes she slept, and sometimes she meowed so her dads wouldn't forget about her. Ghost felt a bump and a screech. She heard people clapping. "This is your pilot speaking," said a voice. "Welcome to Vancouver." Outside, the sky was gray. It smelled different. Rain was falling, and the air was soft and clean. A short ride in a taxi and they arrived. "No more moves, Ghost." Ika opened her cage door. "This is our home now." It was cold in this new country. Ghost buried herself in a pile of blankets. But soon she grew curious. She peeked out the window and saw seagulls flying. She made a chirping sound like a bird, and her dads laughed. Now Ghost lives in her new apartment with her two dads. When Rainer plays video games, Ghost curls on his lap and purrs. When Ika goes for walks in the snow, Ghost loves to go with him. At night, Ghost sleeps on her dad's bed like she has since she was a kitten. And they never, ever have to hide. The end. In the summer of 2016, Rainer and Ika attended their first Pride Parade in Canada. Ghost stayed home to take a nap. It's a great story to read on this day because we can remember on this anniversary Sunday that SSUC has sponsored and supported a number of LGBTQ refugees fleeing violence, persecution, or death. We're so proud of the lives that these folks have built in Canada. Our affirming anniversary is a perfect time to celebrate these lives we've been a part of in a small but significant way. It's also a perfect time to celebrate the massive effort, the time, the support that all of you as the SSUC community have contributed to the work of offering homes and hopes in a new country. Your donations and your compassion make a real difference in our working together in our affirming goals. Just look at the smiles on all of those faces. And we know that it won't be long before we are looking to our next opportunity to help those in need of a safe home, a safe community, to be themselves without fear. What wonderful lives and what wonderful relationships to celebrate on a day like today.
Light up the world, let's light up the world with love. Like the sun in the sky, whenever somebody cries, we can dry their eyes with warmth and love. Sadness and gloom, don't want it hanging around. Darkness and doom, get out of town. We want to light up the world, cover the world with love. Wherever we go, we've got to let people know love is all we need more of. Whether we're poor or rich, makes no difference which. We've all got the power to turn on the switch. Light up the world, light up the world with love. Light up the world, let's light up the world with love. Like the sun in the sky, whenever somebody cries, we can dry their eyes with warmth and love. Sadness and gloom, don't want it hanging around. Darkness and doom, get out of town. We want to light up the world, cover the world with love. Wherever we go. We've got to let people know love is all we need more of. Whether we're rich or rich, makes no difference which. We've all got the power to turn on the switch. Light up the world. Light up the world. We all can light up the whole world with love. With love.
This is a reading entitled No Frames, No Boundaries by Rusty Schweickart, Apollo 9 astronaut, reflecting on his space mission orbiting the Earth during March 1969. Up there, you go around every hour and a half, time after time after time. You wake up usually in the mornings over the Middle East and over North Africa. As you eat breakfast, you look out the window and there's the Mediterranean area, Greece and Rome and North Africa and the Sinai, that whole area. And you realize that in one glance, what you're seeing is what the whole history of humankind for years, the cradle of civilization. And you go down across North Africa and put out over the Indian Ocean, and you look up at that great subcontinent of India pointed down toward you as you go past it. Burma, Southeast Asia, out over the Philippines and up across that monstrous Pacific Ocean, that vast body of water you've never realized how big that is before. And you finally come up across the coast of California and you look for those friendly things, Los Angeles and Phoenix and on across to El Paso, and there's Houston, there's home. And you look out and you identify with it, and you go out across the Atlantic Ocean and back across Africa, and you do it again and again and again. And it all becomes friendly to you. You look down there, and you can't imagine how many borders and boundaries you cross again and again, and you don't even see them. There you are, hundreds of people in the Middle East, killing each other over some imaginary line that you're not even aware of, that you can't even see. And from where you see it, the thing is a whole. The earth is a whole, and it's so beautiful. You wish you could take a person in each hand, one from each side in the various conflicts, and say, look at it from this perspective. Look at that. What's important? And a little later on, your friend goes out to the moon, and now he looks back and he sees the earth not as something big, where he can see the beautiful details, but now he sees the earth as a small thing out there. And the contrast between the bright blue and the white Christmas tree ornament and the black sky, that infinite universe really comes through. The size of it, the significance of it. So small and so fragile, and such a precious little spot in the universe that you can block it out with your thumb. And you realize that on that small spot, that little blue and white thing is everything that means anything to you. All love, tears, joy, games, all of it on that little spot out there that you can cover with your thumb. And you realize from that perspective that you've changed, that there's something new there, that the relationship is no longer what it was, but something new and something else. These are words from an astronaut and may we find wisdom for our living.
To my eye, borders are not usually very beautiful landscapes. The artificial ones, I mean. The ones that we build to keep some people in and some people out. Those ones we control and patrol, those ones we open and close. Those borders that we create to define belonging, ownership, ones like these. And then there are natural borders with a beauty all their own, where rock yields to water, or mountains yield to plains, or rivers weave their way, carving canyons and valleys as they go. Somehow these natural borders unite rather than divide. There's a flow as one kind of landscape merges with another. And although we haven't seen it from space like Rusty Schweikart, we've seen it from the window seat of our aircraft. We've seen the flow and emergence of diverse landscape in relation with one another. In the stories we have from the inheritance of the Jesus tradition, I'm struck by the borders this first century Jewish peasant crossed in his very short lifetime without ever traveling more than a few hundred miles from home. We find him crossing borders into Samaria rather than taking the longer route down the Jordan Valley, which would have kept him on Jewish soil and avoid the hostile territory of the stranger. Or we find him on the Gentile side of the Galilee in foreign communities of the Decapolis, safe away from the safe shores of his own people, on the foreign shores of another. Or we find him in the north on the map, on the Mediterranean coast, up in the region of Tyre and Sidon, homeland of the ancient Philistine enemy of his people. And we discover him in conversation with women, even a foreign woman of Syro-Phoenician identity, even a pagan woman of Canaanite identity, even a Samaritan with whom his peers wouldn't think to speak. Or we find him on that border between Galilee and Samaria, in conversation with outcast lepers who are supposed to quarantine in communities with others who are diseased and stay away from those who are not infected. We find him keeping company with the disreputable of his own people, fraudulent tax collectors and disdained prostitutes. We hear him bring healing to the home of a Roman soldier, the very embodiment of the occupying nation. And stories often locate him at the most segregated place in his society, that place where he crosses all the borders, at the dinner table, eating with those who would never put their feet under the same table with one another. In the ancient Mediterranean society, the table expressed the boundaries of acceptance. It would never be difficult to guess who's coming for dinner, since the purity laws of the society prescribed who would be coming for dinner, who you would eat with and drink with. Only your own kind. Lepers with lepers. The well-to-do with the well-to-do. The learned with the learned. The poor with the poor. Men with men. Children not at all. Into this social order comes a young subversive from a small village in the north with a vision of radical belonging. He has come to the troubled Judean province in the south, where the politics and the movement around which he has gathered so many are in great tension. They're looking, those with power, for a way to eliminate this threat posed by those who would disrupt the status quo. A non-discriminating table presents a fundamental critique of the basic values of this ancient culture, the values of honor and shame. For those who take their identity from the eyes of their peers, the idea of eating and drinking and living together without distinctions, without discrimination, without hierarchies, is unthinkable. Without borders and boundaries and barriers is unthinkable. In these COVID times, we hear a lot about the landscape of the border. We hear a lot about closed borders. Borders closed in an effort to keep a virus out. And this may be a good and necessary temporary policy to slow the spread of a deadly virus. I don't know. Though what virus ever carried a passport and checked in with border guards? And who are we excluding besides the virus we seek to keep out? In the geography of the heart, borders are dangerous, and closed borders are deadly. Those of us who know ourselves to be a part of that long string of alphabet, LGBTQ2S+, and on we go, we are among those who know the truth of these words of Thomas Merton. What can we gain by sailing to the moon if we are not able to cross the abyss that separates us from ourselves? The first border crossing any of us must cross is a matter of internal affairs. It's a domestic matter. It's the border within us. Whether that border is gender, gender identity, sexual orientation, whether that border is fear, shame, hurt, trauma, whatever invisible border keeps us from our truest and most authentic self is always the first border we cross. It takes great love and deep courage to dismantle the well-defended borders within us that have been built by culture, by expectation, by norms, by fears, by beliefs. To cross the first border, it takes much. It takes the wisdom of knowing that I no longer want to let any place in me hold itself closed, for where I am closed, I am false. And then there's the border built by bias. The border that keeps a transgendered person from participating in the sport or serving the country they love. And then there are the borders built by the pronouns that carry so much cultural baggage. There are the borders of hatred across which some have to literally flee for their lives, while others face hatred, torture, ostracism, and even death. There are still more than 80 countries where being a sexuality other than heterosexuality is punishable by law. There are still more than 5 countries in the world where being a sexuality other than heterosexuality is punishable by death. We are a community that celebrates so much this day in its commitment that is now more than 22 years old, that has helped to erase some borders, heal some divisions, and set a genuinely welcoming and accepting table where there is a place for each of us and a place for all of us. And in a world with such dangerous borders for the most vulnerable among us, there is still much to do. We have doctors without borders, engineers without borders, musicians without borders. How about hearts without borders? Hearts that don't wall ourselves in and others out. Hearts with no need to carve up a world of yours and mine. Hearts that long to beat beside other hearts, that come in a variety of differently colored skins, differently abled bodies, different ways of loving, different ways of knowing, different traditions, languages, experiences. Hearts without walls, barbed wire, guards, weapons. Hearts with undefended borders. Hearts that can beat together for a better world.
Inside another shoes, walk the dusty borders between us, paths I've never chosen to choose. How then shall I live? How shall I live? How then shall I live? How shall I live? How then shall I live this life? How then shall I outside of my listening, felt the living hum of the ground, sought to be at one with the cosmos, singing with its new old sound. How then shall I live? How then shall I live? How shall I live? How then shall I live this life? How then shall I outside of my looking, gazed upon the eyes of the soul, held the hopes and fears of tomorrow, found the pieces making the whole. How then shall I live? How shall I live? How then shall I live? How shall I live? How then shall I live this life? How then shall I step outside of my walking, found within a beat that we share, walked with you the length of a lifetime, and made of life a living prayer. How then shall I live? How shall I live? How then shall I live? How shall I live? How then shall I live this life? How then shall I
A few invitations to offer to you. Today is one of those days where you can join us at 11:15 this morning for a coffee and a chat. We can't supply the coffee, you have to do that, but we can supply the chat. Join us on Zoom at 11:15 Mountain Time. If you need a link, it's in your messenger that you would have received on Friday or at the website on your screen. We also invite you to our next Tuesday Topics Winter Series, hosted by SSUC Saskatoon, Tuesday, February the 9th. All the information you need is there on your screen, and you can find the Zoom link again at that same site on our website. We do appreciate all the ways that you continue to contribute with your time and energy and your finances. For those of you who wish to donate, you can do so with one of the ways on the screen, and we are grateful for each and every one of you who finds their own way to be part of this community in whatever way that's possible. We thank you so much.
Tables are important in our lives. They are the classroom where we learn our need of nourishment and of each other. They are the laboratory where we get to practice how to live with each other. They are the places of connection and communion in our lives, and even in this time of isolation and separation, we each hold the dream of sharing a table with one another once again. Whether our table is where we sit alone these days, or whether it is where we sit at our computer and find ways to connect with one another, whether it is where we share food and drink with our household, we take this moment today to pause and share a table time with one another. A time to give our attention to the condition of our heart, to the shape of our heart. A time when we recognize that although there are many restrictions in our lives, there are no restrictions on our hearts, no restrictions on the opportunities to lower the barriers within us, to learn from so many online sources or conversations we can have safely with one another in our gratitude to technology making that possible, to learn about one another, to find ways to open to a wider and deeper knowing as we seek to round into more wholeness, sawing the sharp corners and the edges until our table is round, like the planet that holds us and our hearts are more open. We in this room take bread that we each have beside us and hope that you do too at home or whatever food you have that you want to enjoy. We take bread wherever we are, giving our attention to the ways it connects us to our hunger for food and for each other, to our hunger for safety and acceptance and belonging. We eat bread knowing that connection and enhancing our intention to be the bread of belonging for one another. and we drink whatever is in our cup. We take what is in it to meet our thirst and to connect us with all who are thirsty for equity, for safety, for hope, and for healing. May we share a common thirst to make the world safer, to open the borders of our land and our hearts to all who are in need of refuge. Whenever we eat and drink, may we dream of a borderless, rounded table that we long to build together, a table where everyone born has a place.
table, a covenant shed around. the table, to live without fear and simply to read, to work, to speak out, to stand with each other, for everyone born the right to be free. And we will delight when we are creators of justice and joy, compassion and peace. Yes, we will delight when we are creators of justice, justice and joy. Justice and joy.
We go into this day to make it so, to work for that justice and peace that brings joy, that takes down walls, that erases borders, that brings us together as one human community. And so as we change our light, we bring that intention to the light that we share in the world, in the conversations we'll have with family and friends, in the things that we will turn our hearts and minds to this day. Friends, be well, be safe. We'll see you next time.